what we're seeing in several markets in Canada. Real estate's gotten very stopped. Realtors are having to work really hard to try and find listings because listings aren't really showing up. And then what listings are showing up, there's not a lineup of people looking to buy listings. What's happening in the US right now in that regard?
Same thing. I mean, it's definitely gotten a little bit more challenging there. With interest rates more than doubling, you're seeing more real estate agents leave the industry. I think the last statistic I read was we've already had 70,000 agents leave in the United States leave the industry because it's not so easy. So a lot of people got into this in the business in the past 5-6 years when things were simple, and now it takes a little bit more work. But with that being said, people still have to sell. They still are buying, having babies, getting married, getting divorced, relocating,
Mhm.
downsizing, dying. I mean, all those life events are still happening. And so we're still seeing our properties sell. It's not as easy to get them.
So it's interesting, I think, and I'm sure it's similar in the US. In Canada, it's literally, I think, 2%. I want to say 2% of realtors who have a license sell more than one property a year. Like it is actually such a small percentage of realtor licenses that anybody's really acting on. It's like 1 to 5 deals a year is pretty, makes up 85% of the realtor market. And it's is the top 10%, top 5% that really make a difference. And then the top 2% where they're doing multiple deals. So, you mentioned that 70,000 realtors leave the industry. I mean, I'm going to, I mean, it's probably a safe assumption that it's those individuals that, weren't really making a living doing it that just checked out. What's your thoughts? I'm just speculating.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's the thing why it's so important to kind of like get your message out there and to show your unique value proposition, because all of those people that are that 85% that are doing between 1 and 5 transactions is still a huge chunk, right? And they're
Mhm,
taking away the bulk from the true professionals. So being
mhm.
able to really position yourself as the authority and as the expert, not just like one of the crowd doing what everyone else is doing, is super important, because those little onesie twosies take away from the really great agents, and also those onesie twosies that just got in it for any reason, that will reduce their commission, that will just sell for anything, make it to where the true professionals really have to have a harder time justifying why they do charge a top commission, and what does make them so different and so unique, and why it really does make a difference to hire someone who really knows what they're doing.
I think that, over the years, I've been in business 40 years. I'm the OG on the block, as in the old guy, not the original gangsta. But anyways, whatever that is, I'm the old guy. My point is 40 years of business, I learned many years ago that when times are good, we should be marketing. When times are bad, we must be marketing. And it is a little bit counterintuitive, isn't it? That often in businesses and I'm sure in the real estate or the realtor industry, one of the first costs that get cut is marketing. It seems like the obvious cut to make, yet it really is counterintuitive because it's actually the cost that you may even actually in some cases want to increase. What's your philosophy on that, Krista?
Oh, 1000%. I think that, so in fact, there's something called the risk to purchasing factor ratio, right? So meaning in times of uncertainty, people need more trust, right? So
Mhm.
people need more trust, and they take longer to purchase during times of uncertainty, right? Which means that we need to market more, not less, because the trust ratio versus the purchase or hiring ratio happens. So when, like, we're definitely in uncertain times right now, not just in real
Mhm.
estate, like the real estate,
Everywhere.
yeah, everywhere, and especially in the real estate community
Mhm.
market, sellers and buyers, they're more uncertain now than they were ever before. So with times of more uncertainty and more risk and more skepticism, that's when you need more trust, which means you need to put more dollars and more investment into marketing yourself, into marketing your goods and service, not less. And so while everyone else is pulling back, it's a greater time to be putting more into it, because there's less competition. People are doing more research, and people need more information before they make a decision because they are uncertain.
Now, you have a podcast, you have a brokerage, you've got a marketing background, you coach realtors, you do a lot of that work. You have developed an expertise over the years in marketing and understanding real estate and, how to how to grow your business as a realtor. Do you think that, our realtors, you took it on? Let me go back. Like, you took it on to say, no, I'm going to learn this, and then over the years that evolved to be what it is today. Is I think is probably how it happened. It's probably one of the more common ways. Not that it is that for you, but my question really is that from a realtor perspective, who maybe doesn't have the background you have, doesn't do the video, doesn't do the podcast, doesn't have the marketing background, what do they do? I mean, my budget's limited. Where do I turn? What do I do? What's your thoughts on that? How are you guiding somebody? Because I'm looking at it in two places, right? I'm number one, small business owners, because small business owners, to me, realtors are small business owners. They are entrepreneurs, whether they're solopreneurs or not, doesn't matter. Point is how do you guide or coach some of your clients into making these kinds of decisions?
So, you know, for anything in the world, no matter what it is that you're researching or doing, most people will go online to do research, right? Like
Hmm.
they go to YouTube to compare and contrast. They go
Hmm.
to Google to ask questions, or Chat GPT to ask questions. They're going online to get their questions answered first before anything else. In fact, like, what's the NAR stat is, like 99% of buyers and sellers go online first, right?
Hmm.
So knowing what you do as a consumer, even for something so small as to, like, what's the best pizza place to go to in town, or the best Italian restaurant, or the best sushi spot, or you know who to hire to mow your lawns. Like, you're going online and saying, hey, who's the best you know landscaper to hire, or where's
Totally.
the best pizza place to go in town. It is no different with any type of a profession, especially in real estate. And the thing about buying and selling is that, um, I think there was a study that was done, that, and I think it was from NAR, but it's around 11 to 13 months that a buyer or seller starts researching before they actually take action. When they start having the thought to sell, or to buy, they're going online and they're doing a massive amount of research before they ever decide to take the plunge, or even call somebody, right? So the idea is if you know what you do as a consumer for something so small as what restaurant to go to, when you're out of the area, imagine one of your most important decisions, and probably the biggest financial investment you'll make, whether it's buying or selling. Think about that, and then, like, what are your behaviors of a consumer, and don't you think that other people are doing the same thing? And then, would it be advantageous or beneficial for you to be the person that they're gathering information from and that they're learning from prior to making that call, to ensure that you at least get the call, right? And so,
Hmm.
it's really important when you're a real estate agent, or a local business, or any kind of a solopreneur or an entrepreneur. It's really important who you know, but what's even more important is who knows you. And so you have to ask yourself, when somebody is thinking about buying or selling or investing, right, or flipping or whatever it else, who are they thinking about, and are you someone that comes to mind prior to them making the plunge? And if not, ask yourself, okay, would that be important for me to be somebody that they thought about? And then the first steps on doing that is just to, what I call, to be not so much a consumer of content, but more of a producer, right? How can
Hmm.
you start to be a reporter? The best way to start is just to be a reporter of what's happening locally. More important, because anytime you have content, the more relevant it is to them, the closer in proximity it is to them, and the more current it is. Those are three of the things that make people really interested in it. How can you create current, relevant, uh, content that really is in close proximity and relevancy to your ideal client? And wow, you'd be amazed at how quickly you can start to generate a lot of interest.
I love this conversation because it really speaks. It's like one of my, I guess, fundamental passions is supporting small business owners. Again, realtors and real estate investors, and literally bricks and mortar.
Mhm.
And one of the things that we get into the discussion about is, how do you create your brand? How do you establish your identity? How do you set yourself up so that people recognize you as an expert given what your brand is and what your brand narrative is. What are the problems that you're solving? What is it you're bringing to the table? It was interesting that years ago, a good friend of mine was a realtor. He lives local here, and he was just getting into it, and he was not afraid to get in front of a camera. He wasn't afraid to embarrass himself. He is Colombian, and so English was second language, ESL. But he got in front of the camera, and he would go around this particular town, city close by called Langley, and his whole brand was "This is Langley," and he would walk into a small business and go, "I'm talking about Langley to potential buyers and real estate owners, and you're in the hood. Can we talk about your business?" And he would interview these people, and he said, "This is Langley, this is Langley," and he kept pushing out, and "This is Langley," and he did a great job of it. Little 2 or 3 minute vignette kind of video things that were highlighting businesses in the area, talked about the neighborhood, talked about what's here, and it was amazing the number of people that gravitated to him. Now, I was never going to buy a piece of real estate in Langley. But even though I knew him, he had established himself as an expert. So if I met somebody who was looking for a piece of real estate, looking for investment in real estate, I go, "You should talk to Juan. I tell you what, he's a cool cat. He knows Langley like the back of his hand." And I would then refer him because of the brand that he created and the expertise, or the expert he showed up as in that particular market. And I thought, man, what a great idea. But it was a way for him. So sometimes we think the content, we don't get creative around content. We're saying maybe the same things as others. To me, that was a way for him to stand out. What's your thoughts? You're the expert. I'm not.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and that's what I teach my students. I teach them to become a community market leader. So anything and everything community, local, like specific to talk about, right?
Mhm.
Like think about it. If you hear this house is on fire in Chicago, this house burned down in Chicago a year ago. It's not as exciting as, hey, this house is on fire right now. Oh, I want to learn about it. Well, this house is on fire on your street, right?
Yeah.
Relevant, current, and it's in proximity to you. The more proximity, like the more relevant to your own what's interested you, the more it will convert. So talking about what's happening in the area, things to do, what's nearby, great places to eat, what's happening on the weekend, what's a new business in town, what's happening in the community that people are talking about, both good and bad, right? I mean, like talk about it. We have this crazy bridge that's being built in our area. It's like the dumbest thing. They're spending millions of dollars making this pedestrian bridge that brings people over this freeway, and it's like it's one of the most controversial things. Like my son's like, I'm just gonna walk on that bridge just to say that I did, because they're spending millions of dollars of our tax dollars on this stupid bridge, right? Just
Mhm.
something like that people are interested in. And some of our most watched videos that we make, and we make tons of videos, from interviewing local restaurants to local businesses to things to do in the city locally. But our most watched videos are our local market updates, like what's happening in the market right now locally, right? And then also our
Yeah.
national market updates. Like we do both, but people really want to know what's happening locally. And I always tell, like as an agent or as an investor, right? If you see a house go on the market on your street, the first thing as an agent you do is you get mad because they didn't hire you. The second thing you do is you go pull the flyer, or you go home and you check the MLS because you want to know what the house was listed for, because you live in that neighborhood, right? People are so consumed with real estate, and that's why these real estate, TV shows like these Selling Sunset or whatever, they're one of the most popular TV shows because people are obsessed with real estate, they're obsessed with homes, and even more so locally. So just to your point, this is Brentwood, this is, Tuscany, this is my neighborhood. People are obsessed with it because that's where they live. And perception is reality. So you can be a brand new agent and start talking about what's happening in the local area. And very quickly, people start to think that you're an expert or that you're busy because they're seeing you produce content, even if you've never even sold a house before. I actually have an agent that got voted best. She was a brand new agent. Her name was Sue LaFavi, and she got voted best agent in her city before she had ever sold a house. And it wasn't like she was emailing all of her friends telling them to vote for her, because she hadn't sold anything yet. So she was like a secret agent that was actually talking all about the city, and she got voted best agent in her city because of that.
I love that story.